Oh, sorry. I didn't notice you there. Let me just take this thing off. Dramatic, huh? Welcome everyone to Weeaboo Wednesday. Of course, Weeaboo Wednesday is your weekly dose of anime and Japanese goodness, all rolled up into just some little poorly put together news program. This week, I think I have a little bit of a break here in the fact that there's not too many stories, so let's jump in. Let's start off with a familiar story. Another man in his 40s has been arrested for burglary and has essentially given himself the name of Lupin. Yes, it would seem that there are no shortage of 40-something-year-old men who like to refer to themselves as anime characters. And thus, this 46-year-old man had been recently arrested and he introduced himself to the police as Lupin, the Lupin of Kansai. Evidently, he had committed over 150 burglaries in two separate areas. He later named himself the Flower of Oedo, which apparently is an antiquated way of referring to the area he was from. But it's funny because this follows that story from last week where I talked about another robber who was robbing convenience stores who happened to have a replica pistol from Lupin III and happened to just say, oh no, I'm just a big fan of the anime, I carry this around all the time, when in fact he was actually using it to hold up stores. It's funny because the people online are saying, well, it's good for someone to maybe name you Lupin if you happen to be that legendary of a thief. But to call yourself Lupin when you show up at the police station is just kind of nerdy. But impressively, this man apparently committed 150 robberies where he was actually breaking into like offices and stealing computer equipment and all this other stuff. Which, you know, it's not good. None of it's good, but it's still kind of funny. Nobody got hurt at least. And finally, there's some more good news regarding the Kyoto Animation's fire. Obviously, there's really nothing good that we can take from this, but it's nice to see that the 35 victims who were suffering life-threatening conditions are no longer on notice for life-threatening conditions. There are several people still that are in the intensive care unit for burns, but that's far better from them being, on the brink of death potentially. So it's great to see that they're recovering and moving along their way. It would also seem that the authorities are working with the victims to create a replica of the Kyoto Animation's building, and they're finding out where people were and when they were there, and essentially how they escaped the building. So hopefully that information will be used in the future to prevent something like this from happening again. It's really crazy to think that Shaman King is turning 20 years old. I remember when I found out about Shaman King, I was only in high school. I had a friend who was super into it, but the manga had been running in Shonen Jump weekly since 1998, basically. So it's been a long road for Shaman King, and ultimately they actually wound up stopping it, restarting it, the mangaka got sick. There's been so many hiccups along the way with this anime, but they're going to be paying tribute to it in December with a 20th anniversary special sort of exhibition where you can go and see all sorts of different relics from the past of it. Maybe bunches of the manga pages and original art from the original mangaka as well, so that should be interesting. Nipponichi Software is one of my favorite companies to make games. As you may understand from the printing here on the wall, I'm a huge Disgaea nerd. Pretty much anything that has art from Harada Takahito winds up on my shelves, and so do his art books. So it was great to see that Nipponichi hosted a site for a new game. There was a countdown going for a teaser where there was this weird video, and it was essentially just like a view through broken glass with all this fog, this weird kind of atmosphere where there was like a shed and some mushrooms, and it was cutely decorated and stuff like that. And then finally, day to day, it continued to lengthen itself and it get a little bit longer, and they would put more into it. So now it got to the point where this cute little character comes over and flops down and falls, but it would seem that they finally revealed the actual game. The game itself is going to be called Void Terrarium, and it takes place in a future where humanity has essentially pretty much gone the way of the dinosaur, and it's so toxic in the air that nobody can breathe this. And evidently, this helper robot who worked at some sort of factory finds a girl laying on the ground, and since this girl could never survive in these harsh conditions, he creates a small terrarium for her and places her within that. The game is played from a top-down view where you're actually viewing into the terrarium and you can control this character moving around. Now, there's also lots of dungeons where you can go and actually recover new furniture and stuff like that to decorate the terrarium, and ultimately it sounds like a really cool idea, and I love Nipponichi Software, so I pretty much trust them to make something cool, especially something atmospheric like this, so I'm excited to see this. And I also found out that there is a building in Chofu, I believe, that actually hosts a Nipponichi store, so I kind of want to go there. Promare has made over 1.2 billion yen, which is over $11 million. So the movie's done really well, and it's exceeded Trigger's expectations, so now they've announced that they're going to be doing 4D screenings of it. I've never seen a 4D movie, but I did see Promare, and it actually did really well in America. Apparently, on Thursday, which was the day that the sub aired, it was number 3 for the box office that day. And I'll tell you right now, if you haven't seen Promare, or Promare as it's written, you should definitely go check it out because it was a really, really cool movie. It was really great. I gotta say, it was unlike anything I've ever seen visually as far as animated movies go. This was completely in its own league of being so strange and just surreal looking. The design was wonderful, the characters were really cool. I even got to hear some familiar voice actors. It was wonderful. It's very in the style of Trigger, if that makes any sense. I was getting shades of Kill La Kill and Gurren Lagann the entire time, which was hilarious. Especially because one of the characters is actually voiced by the same seiyuu who does Viral from Gurren Lagann, who's one of my favorite Japanese voice actors. But still, if you get a chance, definitely check it out. You won't be disappointed. It's certainly something different. Okay, so I talked about it last week, and then literally the day that I released Weeaboo Wednesday, I'm pretty sure they revealed the Pokemon that they were teasing in the glitched website. That Pokemon happens to be Sirfetch'd. Yes, Sirfetch'd, which is an evolution of Farfetch'd. Funny enough, Farfetch'd was one of the original 151 Pokemon that didn't get an evolution from the start. So it was funny to finally see them use Farfetch'd because characters like Tangela and Magmar and Electabuzz, even Snorlax, all have some sort of evolutionary form, the only exception being legendary. So it's funny to see that Farfetch'd is now this handsome bird knight. He uses a leek as a sword, and evidently the shield that he has is a shield of leek leaves? It's really weird, but it's a really interesting take on the Pokemon, and it doesn't look like too far a deviation from a regular Farfetch'd, which I really like about it. The internet was completely abuzz due to this reveal. Everybody seemed to love it, and everybody was drawing fan art, and even Shoko Nakagawa, the singer of Sorairo Days from Gurren Lagann, happened to draw her own fan art, saying how she liked the character too, which is really crazy because it's Shoko Nakagawa. So congratulations, Farfetch'd, for being a Pokemon that was never really quite that spectacular. You have now risen to legendary status with this new game coming out. Indivisible is a game that was crowdfunded on Indiegogo. It's going to be created by the creators of Skullgirls, Lab Zero Games, and it's set to come out, I believe, sometime soon. Back in 2015, it made something like $2 million on Indiegogo, which is pretty good for an indie sort of game, because Lab Zero, let's face it, have only released a fighting game so far. That being said, one of the stretch goals that they had in their tiers was actually to get an animated opening from Studio Trigger, and it has finally been released, and I've got to say, it looks damn good. Of course, this isn't what the game is going to look like. Sure, there's going to be some resemblance there, but ultimately, this is a great way to sell this, because it's perfect Trigger work. It looks just like you would expect coming from Trigger. Evidently, they also had Titmouse, who worked on the storyboards, who have also done work for Metalocalypse and other shows. They also worked on Venture Brothers, I believe. But still, it's funny to see all these people coming together for something like this. Trigger has really extended their reach. They've gotten huge, and I think that they're going to be a contender for one of the best animation studios of all time in the future. But if you're interested in the game, it's really cool because it uses a lot of Asian mythology for its character design, and there's a lot of really interesting looking characters in it, so hopefully this is going to be a good game. Only time will tell, but so far it looks like they've really put a lot of work into the animation here, of which I believe they're using 2D animation for a lot of the sprites in game as well, which is awesome. I love that. So I'm really hoping that Indivisible is a jam. I'm mostly just still talking because I wanted you to see how cool this animation really was, but eventually I have to end it, so sorry. So it would seem that Fate Grand Order Babylonia finally got some more details in regards to the series length. It's going to start up in October, and it's going to run through March of next year, so it's actually going to run for 21 episodes. Evidently there's going to be streaming available for Funimation, but they're going to have exclusivity of it for quite some time, I think, for at least a year, until Crunchyroll will actually also be streaming it. Though, of course, the English dub will likely remain exclusive for Funimation for quite some time. Here's hoping that it's good. You may not know about it, but Wattam was this game that was announced by the Katamari creator, and it was announced back in 2014. And since a few short previews here and there hasn't been much talked about it. And I was afraid that the project kind of got shelved or something, but it would seem that finally we're getting a release date for December, which is great. This game looks really weird and interesting because, of course, as the Katamari creator, they make crazy stuff, so I'm looking forward to seeing this. So let's hope that it does indeed come out in December, and let's hope that it's amazing. This one's really crazy. Space Channel 5 is getting its own VR game exclusive to PS4. This is really weird. I didn't expect such an obscure title to come back up now. If you're not familiar, Space Channel 5 was one of the legendary titles of the Dreamcast era. I don't think it did particularly amazing in America, but it still had a lot of relevance because it was always shown in all of the advertisement for the Dreamcast. It's a really cool game, it's rhythm-based, and the character design is really great. I've always really liked the design of the game, and it would seem that this new game is going to be sort of a remake. The clip we got was short, but it's apparently going to be a new version of the old game, of course with some updated designs, as well as some new characters additionally as well. Ooh La La has a couple of new reporters working for her, and their character design is pretty satisfying to look at. Who knows, maybe it'll also come out as a non-VR game? That would be dope. GeGeGe no Kitaro is entering its final arc, the Nurari Hyon arc, in October. This is bittersweet because I love GeGeGe no Kitaro, and it recently began its second year back in April, and it's been running for quite some time. They're up to episode 76, which is going to air on October 6th, and the anime will hopefully run all the way through 100 or more episodes, I would hope, and beyond that, God, I would love for it to get even more. But still, this was announced as the final arc, so who knows what may happen. I'm really hoping that it continues in some way, but you can only get so much of a good thing. And honestly, GeGeGe no Kitaro is one of my favorite anime. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend you go out and check out. This most recent iteration is absolutely fantastic. And that's it, that's all I've got. I'm not gonna sit here and ramble and just talk trash, but I will tell you something exciting that I have yet to reveal on the channel. I am going back to Japan. It's been a while since I've been there, 2 years to be exact, and yeah, I'm going back in October. I didn't want to say anything until I had everything lined up perfectly that was ready to go, but yes, in October I will be returning to Japan for 2 weeks. 2 whole weeks, I will not be here. I will still have videos releasing on the channel, though I don't think I'll be able to be releasing Weeaboo Wednesday. I'm going to be announcing this in another video, but just as a little bonus here at the end, I hope you guys enjoy that, and hopefully you can recommend something cool for me to do in Japan. But besides that, thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like this video, make sure to leave a like on the video because it does really help me out. And if you subscribe, that also helps me out too, and it makes me feel a little bit less insecure at night. If you want to hit that bell, it'll show you when I get my videos, because a lot of times people don't get to see your videos because they don't get proper notifications. Thank you, algorithm. But additionally, if you want to watch another video, I'm going to link something right here for you to click, and if you do click that, it helps me out big time, even if you have seen it already. Go ahead and click it. Comment below what your favorite story was, and I'll see you in the next video in a couple of days. See you later, Weeaboos. Or maybe I'll see you tonight.